I won't take. My name's Marc Elliot. I just want to let you know that I have something called Tourette syndrome, and it causes me to make noises and say some things that I can't help. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it bothers you. I promise you, it bothers me more. Who here, before me just getting up here today, has heard of Tourette syndrome? This is a very educated crowd. I speak about tolerance because that is my product. Tolerance is what I try to give people, because this, 5 years ago, this started very small for me, and it really started with me talking to my one drama school. And there was 15 kids in the class, and from there, it really has expanded quite far from that one day. And now I've been able to go all across St. Louis, and now I'm taking it outside of St. Louis, and so it's really kind of a very humbling experience for me, knowing that just that my challenges, in dealing with my own challenges, that I'm able to help other people. I have Tourette syndrome.
Can you find a way to...
Stupid people. No, I understand. Can I control it? It's called Tourette syndrome. Have you ever heard of it? I have. Yeah, it's a medical disorder. I stay volunteer in the organization, so It started out when I was 5 years old, and the way it all began was I started blinking my eyes, kind of like blinking my eyes like this and rolling my eyes. I didn't know exactly what was going on. And then as I got a little older, 6, 7, I started to say words. I also do have obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. The way some of my tics work is that when I'm in a situation, I will, because of the OCD, try to think of the most risky thing to say in that situation. And so that, whatever I come up with, that becomes my itch. And that the only way that I can scratch it is then by saying that word. In the airport, I was ticking bomb a lot, like as I was going through security and then towards the gate.
What's important to understand is that these patients aren't voluntarily trying to be rude or socially inappropriate or offensive. It's more that they have this compulsion of this word in their head that a tension builds up, that if they don't express that word, inappropriate word, they'll, it just causes such great discomfort, so they can only suppress it for a brief period of time.
A day before my 17th birthday is when I really ran into the greatest obstacle I had ever encountered with my Tourette syndrome.
A St. Louis area teenager who says he has Tourette syndrome claims he was kicked off a Greyhound bus in Indianapolis because of his disability.
I got on the bus and they made an announcement about my Tourette syndrome. And earlier in line, a lady had heard me saying some inappropriate words. And she stood up and she said, well, how come he can say this word?
With that, this Clayton High junior who turns 17 tomorrow says he was kicked off the bus and Indianapolis police were called. Elliot says he was on his way home from a church youth camp when the incident happened. Elliot and his family say they've traveled all over the country and never been denied access to transportation. His family calls it a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Up to that point in my life, I had just had this perception that, okay, everyone's going to understand the Tourette syndrome, like everyone's just going to accept me for who I am. But it was at that moment in the bus station that I really realized, it was like, okay, no, this is actually not the world that I do live in, that there is this world outside of my bubble. And that was really kind of a turning point in my life where I said, okay, I really need to kind of take a hold of my Tourette's and say, okay, look, this is what I need to show people, and this is what I need to educate people about. By law, Like, I am allowed to go to a movie theater, and like they couldn't force me out of the movie theater just because I'm making noise. But like, I don't do that. I don't go to the front of the movie theater and say, hey, listen, I have Tourette syndrome, you're gonna let me in. Because I have had some instances where managers at movie theaters like have been pissed. And so like a compromise that I've made is like I'll have a washcloth. And like if I go to a play or a movie, and I'll just like stuff the washcloth in my mouth for like the entire movie to muffle the noises. And it works out well. My mouth gets a bit parchy. But, you know, it's just like I still want to do the things in my life, but at the same time, like I don't want to infringe upon other people's lives as well if I can help it.
Marc, at some point in his adolescence, started a verbal tic where he would say fag or some sort of gay slur, and it was usually directed towards me. At first, because of what I was going through in my own identity development and coming out process, that was a really hard thing to hear. And I knew that Marc couldn't help it, but I had an inherent knee-jerk reaction every time I heard it. It really like went to the core of who I was and what I was struggling to deal with at the time. So it was very hard, especially when I was first coming out.
There has been times where even people who are close to me have said to me, they go, Marc, look, I know you have Tourette syndrome and I know you can't help it, but it still bothers me. And you know, that's tough to hear because all I can say is, you know, I'm really sorry. I wish I didn't have to say this. But I remember one time specifically, I was downstairs with my brother. We were playing pool, and I was saying faggot a lot, and you know, I could just kind of see it in his face, and I just knew that he was kind of he was just perturbed. I messed the word up. You know, he was just I guess agitated. You know, my brother was just agitated, and I could tell that it really just kind of was affecting him. Like his self-esteem, basically. You know, it was affecting who he was as a person. There have been many cases in my life where I'll go into a restaurant, like I go into McDonald's, you know, start ticking, and then there'll be people who would just have uncontrollable laughing because they just don't know what's going on, or they're just completely shocked that someone has Tourette syndrome. But they won't do it to my face. They'll just kind of do it to themselves and kind of go down, just laugh and laugh and laugh. And, you know, I don't usually say something in those kind of cases, but that does happen a lot, and I just try to tolerate it because as I've said before, I really do believe it's important to tolerate other people if I want people to tolerate me. I never just have these moments where people just don't know that I'm there, or that I can just go through life completely unnoticed. And so that has been a very interesting position for myself because I really have learned a lot about the way that people react to people who are different. And so I think that if I don't continue to speak or try to advocate for people for more than just Tourette syndrome, that I would really be doing I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to other people. People look at me very quickly and make a lot of assumptions about who I am as a person. And here's a perfect example. About a month and a half ago, I was in Wendy's. So here I was standing in line, there's this other woman, and I'm making some noises, and she kind of looks at me and she laughs at me. I go, oh ma'am, I just want to let you know, like, I have Tourette syndrome. She kind of laughs and just kind of dismisses it. So, like, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds go by, and before I know it, this woman starts saying something, and this is what she said: don't worry everyone, he's retarded. And I was just kind of standing there like, I'm not retarded, I just have Tourette syndrome. I don't think you can necessarily learn tolerance in a textbook. I was speaking at this camp to a whole bunch of kids, and this girl came up to me afterwards. She was like almost teary-eyed at this point. She goes, listen, I just want to thank you so much for coming to speak to us about tolerance. And she said, earlier in the year, her dad was in a car accident and he had some serious brain injury. And the girl said to me, she goes, listen, my sister and I have been trying so hard to be tolerant of our dad. And I think after hearing me speak, they realized how little they know about even their dad and what he's going through. You know, we can't have a half an hour speech from everyone in life about what are your personal challenges and why you're doing everything. But because we don't have that opportunity, I say tolerate people and don't make assumptions about who they are because we just don't know. And so I say, I hope that you can challenge assumptions when you go back out in your own life. And lastly, don't be so quick to judge. And more importantly, you know, don't judge people because of their noises.